Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. My name is August Sabini. I was assigned the pronouns he and him when I was born, and over the course of my life, I've kind of discovered that that's about 75% accurate. We gather in worship to find meaning and live more deeply. Worship creates connections among, within, and beyond us, calling us to our better selves, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, we're glad you're here. If today is your first time with us, we'd love to get to know you. Right after the service, you are invited to the South Portico, where we can sit and talk about what we're doing here. For those of you who are online, the link to our visitors form is being dropped into the chat right now. Now, let's take a minute to greet our neighbors, especially the ones you don't know. We're lucky Victoria's here to help us light this chalice. We sometimes hear it said, the sky's the limit. We wonder, and as we wonder, awareness and understanding grow. Our world becomes the universe. We realize that beyond the sky are stars.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. My name is Jen Youngsun. I use the pronouns she and her. Welcome to our Transgender Day of Visibility service. Hi.
Hi. And it's just that
Hi.
You're going to be a star someday.
It's okay. Thank you so much for coming up here. So the actual day was Friday, and a whole group of us watched the film Transgeek. One of the people in that film said, you know, transgender people are seen, that is, looked at. We are constantly looked at, but we are rarely truly seen. It is no small thing to be willingly visible and open as a person who identifies as transgender, non-binary, and intersex. Because of the alarming rise in anti-trans rhetoric and violence, being visible is not even an option for many in our country today. It's just too dangerous. For all who cannot live freely and openly as their true selves, we celebrate you. We pledge to keep working for gender identity inclusion, and we hold you in our love and in our care. You know, we are living in uneasy, kind of liminal spaces. We're transitioning from one way of being in the world to another. We're not where we used to be, but we're not quite where we want to be. And in this anxious in-between time, society's norms and expectations have burst open, and those neat little boxes just don't work anymore. For some of us, it is an exciting and liberating time. Our communities are vibrant and multifaceted. They are rich with diversity. Everywhere, we are witnessing people move beyond narrow beliefs and fixed ideas about things that used to be kind of the most basic facts of life, right? Boy, girl, man, woman, basic. And yet, if you are a person who has had all of their identity wrapped up in those fixed boxes and in the world that once was, the changes that we're all witnessing today cut to the very essence of who you are and how you see yourself in relation to the world around you. This must be a terribly frightening and threatening feeling. But that is no excuse to terrorize other people. Humanity's growth has always been a movement from captive to free, from constrained to expansive, from exclusive to inclusive. There is no stopping freedom. We've seen this over and over again in fits and starts, not perfectly, but the long arc of justice, right? The long arc of freedom. There is no stopping the human spirit because it wants to be free. It needs to be free, and it deserves to be free. Come, let us truly see one another, not with our eyes, but with our hearts. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. My name is Tina Dio, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm on the ministerial staff here at UUCE. And this morning we have an opening prayer that is written by Mr. Barb Grieve, who is a UU professional in many ways. He is used to be our co-moderator at our General Assemblies. He also helped found the organization Trust, Trans Religious Professional UUs Together, and he has served multiple congregations in the capacity of Director of Religious Education, and he is also a trans man. And so this prayer for trans visibility is in his words. Blessed are the trailblazers who brought us this far and are still trailblazing, still celebrating. Blessed are the drag queens and kings who remind us not to take life too seriously. Blessed are the gender benders, non-binary, gender fluid, and third gender folk, those who challenge us to reframe our gender paradigm. Blessed are the young ones who present fearlessly from the start. Blessed are their parents who make space for freedom and love their children fiercely. Blessed are the siblings and relatives who educate, support, and love us as we are. Blessed are the genderqueer youth who are struggling and persist. Blessed are the 90-year-olds just coming out and those who have been out decades. Blessed are those whose lives were cut too short. May their stories live on through us. Blessed are the survivors. May they keep on living. Blessed are the allies learning to be accomplices. Blessed are those gathered here today, witnessing, learning, celebrating. May we all commit to continue showing up, fighting for justice, celebrating all the genders in life. Amen.
It's not fair to make me tear up before I have to come and talk. That was pretty rude. Okay. I am a non-binary trans man, as some of you know. I'm a member of our board here and love this community very much. I love being who I am, and I am thankful that I have places in my life where I can be my authentic self. That has not always been the case for me. I have always been scared of being out, and for good reason. I've been assaulted, abused, and harassed for being myself. I've lost relationships with family and friends who saw me as a mistake, as broken and disgusting. Many of my trans siblings have experienced far worse than I have. The recent riots in public hatred of trans and gender nonconforming people is not new. It's been all of my life. It's more visible now. We notice now that it is not okay. My people aren't safe, y'all. We need you, and you need us. So in my life, I've been a closeted teacher, friend, coworker, and boss. I was closeted because that was what I needed to do to be safe at those times. The first place I was out as queer was my UU youth group as a teenager. The first place I was out as a non-binary masculine person was in the Unitarian Universalist world. As a youth advisor, as a congregant, and as a leader in our faith, I've dealt with rejection and microaggressions, but always found places of acceptance as well. I now am out on my passport, on my state ID, and in my workplace. Okay, I'm a non-binary trans man who's a therapist and a manager in Cottage Grove. I never would have imagined that that would have happened in my lifetime. And still there are things, right? We say brothers and sisters, and we forget that siblings also include people like me. I'm a sibling, right? We say we love all of the fathers and mothers out there and forget that there are parents who don't use those terms, right? We all forget. I forget. And it matters that we keep doing better. This place is a beloved, sacred place for me in part because we always work to do better. Trans Day of Visibility means a lot to me because when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, I didn't have anyone in my life or on TV who was out as queer, trans, or non-binary. We were jokes. We were the ha ha ha, you're gay, right? Okay. I needed to see people like myself who were thriving and loving and laughing and enjoying life as themselves, who were embraced and loved as themselves. So Trans Day of Visibility is not only a celebration of me and my life and my being out, but it also is a way in which I can put my life at risk in order to make sure that others like me feel safer, to make sure that others like you know that we are here and we are okay and we matter and we're important to you as well as to ourselves. Thank you.
happy Transgender Day of Visibility to everybody who identifies as transgender or knows somebody who's transgender or simply wants to deepen their understanding of the transgender community. Transgender Day of Visibility was Friday on March 31st. Many of you attending today spent most of your lives not knowing what the word transgender even meant, but you all attend this church because it's an accepting place that welcomes diversity. I want to tell you all right now the most important thing that isn't understood about transgender youth. Transitioning doesn't ruin people's lives, it saves them. I'm scared that there will be a time in my future that I won't be able to live as who I am. That these lies about my community will shape how decisions are made about my body and how I live my life in the upcoming years. Transgender people shouldn't have to hide themselves in public. We shouldn't have to live in fear of our safety at school or at home. The government has no say over how I live my life or where I go to the bathroom or what sport I can play. Transgender people are not a threat. I'm not a threat. Thank you.
Beloved community, my name is Liz LaVenture. I am a transgender woman. I use the pronouns she and her, and I'm a poet. You may not know it. Sorry, little levity. I have two poems. The first one is really my life, my story. I could have called it Transition, but I wanted to be poetic, so I called it Metamorphosis. So here we go. Metamorphosis, whether mundane or monumental, I suppose may be subliminal or surreal. Life can go from one to the other in a heartbeat. We may sense the change or have the sense of a dream. A life change may be so gradual, we go forward on our mundane 9 to 5, sensing nothing, feeling nothing but hope. We may snap alert at some point. Wow, when did that happen? Football to fashion, baseball to barrettes. When did the change occur? Was it good for you? Was it mundane or monumental, or perhaps sublime? For certain it is surreal. Boy to girl to boy, or neither? Is the distance so far, unimaginable or inconceivable? Certainly it's a daunting journey, a tightrope walk across a perilous chasm. Many turn back or hesitate. He who hesitates is lost. Or they stumble or fall. When did we start or reach the other shore? Is there a start and end? A choice, one side or the other, a binary, boy or girl, pass or fail. It's a journey that begins at birth, but there is no start or finish or arrival at a goal, or victory or defeat. There is only the process, the journey, the doing. Life is metamorphosis. This one's a little shorter, but I want to set the stage. Alice in Wonderland, you can think Lewis Carroll or you can think Disneyland, whichever one works for you. This one is called, Who Are You? Who am I? Who are you? Who gets to decide? I do, you do, we all do, not the doctor or the government or the school. You aren't meant to be a tool, nor do I take you for a fool. This is my body, your body. Our bodies should mirror our souls, not Madison Avenue, or what we are told by anyone. I am me, but it didn't come free. You are you. Celebrate what is true. Be you. Thank you.
So we want to invite anyone during the service and on Zoom to share their prayers of concerns and sorrow and joys. And you can do so over here in our prayer space, where you can put a stone in water, you can light a candle, you can write your joys or concerns in the book. And on Zoom, you can put it in the chat until the sermon part of the service. So you can do that now as well. And then at any time during the week, if you're needing assistance in pastoral care, you can go to our pastoral care portal on our website, where you'll find our lay pastoral associate information, our ministers' contacts, and our kindness team contacts as well. Also today, we are lifting up the life of Joan, the mother of Lissy and Naja Saunders, that died this past week. So we lift her life up today and hold Lissy and Naja and their family in our hearts. We also acknowledge all of the people in our congregation who are living with illness and family concerns and health issues, and we lift all of that up as well. And we also lift up all of our trans siblings today, as we know their rights are under attack in our country. Let us pause for a moment of silence.
Hello, my name is Marty Wilder. My pronouns are he and him, and I love Transgender Day of Visibility. I transitioned over 20 years ago, and it used to be all we had was Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is important because it's a time to honor our lives lost. But it can also be problematic because it can reinforce the anti-trans falsehood that being transgender is a tragedy. Actually, the anti-trans sentiments and legislation and transphobia create the tragedies. I want to speak today to those who say that there's too much transgender visibility, that our young people are identifying as non-binary and transgender in outrageous numbers. This is what I say to them. I was born in 1967. There are people the same age as me who have known since before they could talk that they were transgender. And then there are people like me who didn't come into their identities until their 20s and their 30s. And right now today, there are people my age who don't identify as non-binary or trans, but they will in their 60s and 70s. So we're all part of one cohort with different paths and different journeys at different times. And when I think about what happened for me, what enabled my transition, it's all about visibility. You see, up until that point, everything I knew about being transsexual was filtered through mainstream media in a very negative way, as murderers, sex offenders, deviants, or just hopelessly pathetic people acting in desperation. But the very first time that I saw an honest portrayal of a trans man changed my life. I just saw this film about a guy just living his life as a trans man, and it blew me away. In that moment, with that one small light of visibility, I saw myself, and suddenly my whole past made sense. And for the first time, I could see my future. That one light of visibility was all it took. So now, fast forward 40 years to people born in 2007. They'd be about 16 now. This cohort sees so many more honest portrayals of non-binary and transgender people, so many more glimpses of that light of truth about our joys and beauty. So it makes absolutely perfect sense to me that, unlike folks my age, the 2007 cohort are forming their gender identity right at the time in their lives when we're all forming our identities, that rite of passage from youth into adulthood, instead of spread out across decades. The right hates this, and they will do whatever they can to hide those lights of visibility and shroud it again in dark lies about who we are. So on this Transgender Day of Visibility, I ask all of you to join me in celebrating the wonder, the gifts, the revolutionary awesomeness of non-binary and transgender people. Find out about non-binary and transgender people in your field, what they've contributed and accomplished, and shine that light with me today and every day. The more of us who go out there and shine that light of visibility, the more we will dispel the darkness.
Later this summer, well, maybe early fall, we're going to be presenting a 6-week series developed by Reverend Michael Slack and Alex Capitan called Transgender Inclusion in the Congregation. They gave me permission to show you a little preview of that course, but they made me promise that first I would make sure that the congregation all has a basic understanding of the difference between biological sex, gender expression, and identity. Now, this is something that I never learned in school. In fact, you know where I learned it? In the UU church. So, there's biological sex, right? It includes anatomy and chromosomes and hormone levels. You'll hear Reverend Slack in a few minutes talk about how it's the clinician that looks down and makes that initial call at birth. Female, male, intersex. Later in life, we express ourselves, our behavior, our speech patterns, our clothing, preferences for certain toys or hobbies and occupations. Much of this is culturally defined by gender stereotypes and family expectations. And then finally, there's identity, which is about our inner sense of who we are in terms of gender, how we identify ourselves at any given time in our lives. Thank you so much for your reflections, Jones and Marty and River, Reverend Michael, Liz. I also want to acknowledge all those who came before when things were worse than they are now, from whose hands we are all lifted up. They challenged gender stereotypes, created new language, and taught us to lean on each other when it all got to be too much. So let us all persist toward the day when every body feels free to live into the fullness of their experience without persecution, without trauma, without fear. On your chairs today, we suggest 5 things that you can do to be part of that vision. Help us to make sure that we have access to gender-affirming care and abortion in Oregon. Send some supportive messages to trans youth in the South. Donate to some great organizations locally. Work to support all of the trans people in your life. And remember to vote in those school board elections. So those are just a few ways that we can answer the call to love, the call to live our faith boldly and proudly. May it be ever so. Blessed be. Amen. Now let's say together our closing words. But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now, my friends, go lift it up. Know that you are a gift of the universe. Be a blessing to others and to yourself. Go in peace. Go in love.